So if you're learning how to jump, or perhaps you just recently learned how to jump and you're just trying to find comfort, control, and consistency in jumping, I'm going to offer some insight from what I believe is a completely different perspective, kind of a fresh point of view to try to help you along your journey. So if you stick with me, we'll make this possible. So let's say you're learning how to jump, which I assume you are, hence you're here. What'll happen is you'll study all the steps and you'll study all of the various videos, and you'll take all those steps and all that information, that assortment of content, and you're going to take it to the trails in your local jump. And what you're going to experience is tons of repetition and tons of failure. And that's really part of the process for learning anything. So that is not abnormal. However, what will happen if you stick with it and you don't give up is that you will suddenly have a breakthrough on that jump that you've been haunting for so long. And instantly it's going to feel clear, it's going to feel obvious, and it's going to feel somewhat easy. So what is it that just made it suddenly click for you? Like, what just happened in your mind? Well, what happened was all of those steps, that process, it all became a feeling. And what a feeling is to the body is it's a gathering of a lot of information, a lot of steps, and what it does is it packages that into one step. And we'll call that one step a feeling. So when you ride up to a jump, you know how it's supposed to feel. You anticipate what it's going to feel like, and that throws a lot of uncertainty out of the window. So it adds confidence to your jumping, which made me start to think, why is it so hard to describe a feeling? Why is it so hard to teach somebody a feeling? Well, if you've ever learned how to play guitar, you know that when you try to place your fingers on an easy chord, it feels completely unnatural. It feels like your fingers are a tangled mess, right? And you're really focused on each finger placement, on each string, on each fret to form that chord. But if you stick with it, when you play guitar, what'll happen is that awkward finger shape becomes a feeling. So when you transition from one chord to another, you're transitioning from one feeling to another. So you're not actually focusing on each finger placement. And those feelings become natural. They become just kind of mechanical. They become muscle memory, whatever you want to call it, they become easy. So can we apply that to learning how to jump? Can I teach you a feeling and kind of skip all of those steps that you need to know? I'm going to do my best in this video to do that for you. If you promise me that you're going to do your best to like and subscribe if you find this content helpful. So how am I going to go about teaching you a feeling? Well, it's not going to be easy, but I'm going to do my best, so here goes. The first thing we need to understand is that all of those steps that make a feeling, right, they have to occur within a certain timeline as you approach and hit a transition, right? We'll call that the timing for the jump. So the first step is I'm going to try to teach you how to apply timing to a feeling. So let's look at this. You'll notice that I don't really ever do these helpful videos in bike parks and like pristine, perfect locations because not everybody has access to that. And the same goes for today. I'm not going to do it in a pristine, perfect location. I'm going to do it on what is quite literally almost a completely natural trail jump. And that's where we are going to do the majority of our work in this video. Yo, no doubt there's turds on every feature that I stop and work on. I'm not sure who's leaving them. I'm not sure if it's a raccoon or a skunk or what, but somebody leaves turds on all the trails. So let's take a look at this very small jump here. This is where our first example is going to be. When you come in, your timing has to be accurate because you need to utilize all of this small transition to take you the distance that you need to go. Over here is our landing. Now, timing is important because if you get the timing wrong, you are not really going to leverage everything that this transition can offer you. And when you learn to jump, you want to ensure that you learn the right way, and that is utilizing the transition. So timing is very important for that. So let's talk about this. The first thing I want you to do is you can find a small jump like this, something that you could easily roll over. It can be a rock, it can be a root, it can be literally a small bump, anything that has kind of a substance to it that's, protruding out of the ground. What we're going to do is we're going to get on our bike and we're going to ride up to this and we're going to just ride through it. Now, when we ride through it, we want to make sure that our body is in the correct position. The easiest thing for you to do as a rider is to put your body in the correct position. That's the easiest feeling for you to master. And the correct position is essentially your knees are over your toes, you know, your chin is over your stem, and you're centered on your bike. So we're going to go through that, but you want to make sure that you're in that position. And all we are going to do is just ride over this. We're just going to ride right through this. And what I want you to do is really focus your weight in your feet. And as your weight is focused in your feet and you ride through and off this transition, again, this applies to any transition that you can roll. It applies to any route or rock, you name it. I want you to be very aware of the feeling when your back wheel leaves it. It's important that you keep strong legs. You don't absorb those small jump. You don't absorb the transition, because if you absorb it, you're absorbing that feeling. You're not going to feel it. I want you to be really analytical, and you may have to adjust your speed a little bit, but do this several times. You know, do it 10 times, do it 20 times. Ride through the jump and really focus on the point in which you are confident that your back wheel is leaving the transition. Now, here's the thing. If it's a steep little transition, you run the risk of getting bucked if you do nothing. So to mitigate that, again, find more of a mellow transition. What you don't want to do is push back, okay? If you start pushing back before you go off of the transition, or push back going off of the transition, you are establishing the wrong feeling. Essentially, what you are doing is you are learning how to ride through a jump without crashing. You're not learning how to jump. We're just going to ride over it with a good amount of speed so that our front wheel is off the ground at the moment our rear wheel comes off the ground. Get out of here, you bastard. So here we are. We're going to approach our jump. We're going to hit it with some good speed. We're going to stay forward, knees over toes, heels down, chin over stem. And I really felt, because that I had my weight in my feet, I felt that point that my rear wheel released from the transition. Now this is a really rolled over small jump, so the feeling is subtle. But the feeling was there, and you may have to do it a bunch of times to really hone in on that feeling. So now you've mastered the feeling of what it feels like when your back wheel leaves the transition. That's really going to help you with your timing, and keep that feeling close to you, okay? Don't put it in your back pocket, put it in your front pocket, because we're going to need that feeling here in a few minutes. So now that we mastered the feeling in our back wheel, let's master the feeling in our body. Now you can do this anywhere. You can do it in your basement, you can do it in your garage and in your kitchen. One suggestion though is don't do it where anyone can see you. It might raise some questions with the neighbors. You're good, man. I'm not making a horror movie. You're fine, bro. Have a good one, dude. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of mimic where our feet are on the pedals. It doesn't have to be perfect, okay? And if you find a flat surface, that's best. I don't really have much of a flat surface here, so I found the flattest surface available. Now what we're going to do is get into our riding position. Our knees are over our toes, our booty's out a little bit, our back is straight, our shoulders are over our knees, and our chin is over our stem, okay? We're on our bike, we're centered, we know this. Now what I want you to do is sink down a little bit and roll back onto your heels, push into your heels into the ground. Sink back and roll into your heels. Sink back and roll into your heels, and really feel what it feels like to sink back and roll into those heels and pressing those heels into the ground. Okay? Now, as you sink back into those heels, I want you to extend upward. Bring your hips in and push your chest forward and your shoulders forward and roll up onto the balls of your feet. Okay? We're going down and we're going to roll up onto the balls of our feet. We can do it really slow, or we can do it quick. And as you do this, you want to make sure that your shoulders aren't back. You're not doing this. We're not making love to the universe. We're mastering a feeling here. Well, that is a feeling, but a completely different feeling. So this motion here can be quick if it's a small transition. So if it's a long transition, you might sink in and have strong legs as the transition's pushing back on us, and we roll back and we extend forward slowly off of the transition. It all depends on the length of our transition. But again, that feeling, our goal is to extend up onto our toes as our rear wheel leaves the transition. Our goal is to extend up onto our toes as our rear wheel leaves the transition. I do think it's possible to jib off this tree. If I had a smaller bike, it might be a fun try. Now let's meld these two feelings together, that feeling when our rear wheel leaves the transition and that feeling of rocking back, pushing into our heels and rolling forward and driving with our upper body. So it doesn't matter if it's a steep transition or a mellow transition. When you apply this feeling to a transition, that transition is going to push back on you And that becomes part of the feeling. And it makes it really easy to hone in on your timing because you just know how it feels to press in and extend off of it. Really what this whole thing is all about is pressing in and extending off of. It's as simple as that. So you see how my bike found that arc and nosed into the landing? That's because that feeling that I have drives the arc, it controls the arc. Now when it comes to the idea of rowing the bike in the air, whenever we do that rocking motion and extend motion, rowing the bars toward us is really a natural occurrence and it sort of has to happen. Now let me show you the feeling that you shouldn't have when you're learning how to jump. I'm not saying that it's not a technique that you can employ later on in your riding on different jumps for different reasons, but essentially this is learning how to ride through a jump without crashing and not learning how to jump. So if you don't have any jumps, if you don't have any transitions in your area, you can work on this feeling, mastering this feeling almost anywhere. All you need is a rock, roots. You can throw a 2x4 down on the ground. So let's take this feeling and let's apply it to the trail. So check this out. We have a small root on the trail here. It's perpendicular. It's perfect to practice this on. So what we want to do, remember, we wanted that feeling of rolling back onto our heels and extending up and forward onto the balls of our feet. So now we don't have a transition here. So what are we going to do? Well, we're going to match that feeling of as we roll to the balls of our toes to the point where our rear wheel hits that root, okay? As we roll to the balls of our toes, our rear wheel is making contact with that root. So let's wrap up one more time real quick on a more defined transition, a defined jump. First things first, we're gonna ride it and feel what it feels like as our rear wheel leaves that transition. Remember, stay forward, proper body position always. Now that we have that feeling ingrained in our body, in our soul, we're gonna get this feeling, we're gonna master this feeling. Now what we wanna do is we wanna put them together. Whenever I extend forward onto the balls of my toes, I wanna do it as my rear wheel leaves that transition. Now let's combine those two feelings with minimal effort. Now let's use that same feeling that we know and put some effort into it. Yo guys, as I climb up to the point where I'm going to bring you this video, I want to officially endorse a product that I truly believe in. I endorse it not because I'm getting paid to believe in the product. They don't know I'm going to say this, and certainly not getting paid to say this, but I have a small platform here on YouTube, and I believe that even with a small platform, you can do big good. So I will always shout out products that I think are good. The product I want to shout out is Eastern Outer Mojave sunglasses. If you've watched my channel for any length of time, you know that I always wear glasses of some sort. Glasses are super important when you ride. Not only do they help define the trail, but they also protect your eyes from twigs, dirt, stones, bee stings, all of that. I've experienced all those things and they can end a ride quickly. So I will never ride without sunglasses. With that being said, over the years I've spent, maybe thousands of dollars on sunglasses to try to find the right pair. They're super comfortable. I can wear them all day and not even remember that I'm wearing them, which is the ultimate compliment for sunglasses. Again, they're super affordable, super good. I can't endorse them enough. I put my name behind them. Go check them out on Instagram, Eastern Outer. Grab yourself a pair. Again, nobody told me to say this. Nobody knows I'm saying this. I don't get paid to say this. Just love to shout out good products, especially when they are small, family-run brands. So thankfully, I found my pair of sunglasses. So I appreciate that. Peace.